Alrighty, welcome back to Brooksy's, I don't know what we're calling this, how-to educational fishing breakdown videos. Second installment. Today, we're going to run through the most important thing in your fishing connection, the FG knot. There is a million other videos online about this, but this video is going to show how I do it. I've done it a bunch of different ways over the years, and now I have a system that I feel is the best way the FG knot can be. And I've worked that out from a lot of different testing against myself, others like Brooksy, pulling the shit out of it against the fence, everything like that, and I am 100% confident in this knot. We're going to try and break it down as easily as possible, simplify it all so you guys can emulate it at home. All right, this knot here is obviously pretty fluffed up. It's important to have a fresh FG, so we're going to chop this one off. We're going to run you through how I tie it. First things first here, we've got our old knot. We've still got a lure attached. We're going to pull a bit of line off, make sure none of the main line of the braid has any frays. You can see here, a foot up from where the knot is, we've got a bunch of frayed line here. So not only is the knot a little fluffy and old, we have a little bit of fluff and damage to the braid from casting, might have touched the bommy, so that's the reason we're checking. All right, before we get going here, there's a couple things you need to tie your knot, whether you're at home, you're in the boat. You need scissors, street fighter, lighter. You obviously need leader, very important, and you need your rod reel with your braid on it. Alrighty, first things first, I'm just pulling off a little bit of line here, checking through for that fluff that we discussed. Pretty happy there. I'm gonna get me scissors. So I'm just gonna snip. Alright, with anything in fishing, there's obviously a bunch of different ways to do it. Some people do the FG with their fingers. I do not. I do it this way. I'm gonna show you how I do it, whether it's in the boat, at home, whatever. I love to use the rod as like the tensioner for me, so bear with me here. I'm gonna get a little bit creative underneath the bloody table. Sorry. Is it going to fit under there? Might have to go this way. Okay. Shit. All right. How did that sound? Is the knack grinding across the tiles? Godfrey's probably going to stand on it.
That is so loose.
Oh, fuck you. Okay. This will all make sense in a second here. And this is the same way I do it in the boat. I lay it down beside me, I whack my foot on it to lock it down, and then I have my braid coming out the tip of the rod. And that'll give you like a bit of a tension, but will also absorb any bumps when you're in the boat. If you have it straight from the reel or from the stripper guide, the boat rocks with the motion of the ocean and it can just pull the braid out of your mouth. So having that little bit of absorption of the tip, very good tip. If you're in the boat and it's rough and you're bouncing around everywhere, the braid's coming out of your teeth, you can just whack a little half hitch in your braid, like that. Then it's got a little bit of grip for your tooth to hold on to. Bang, not coming out, locked in. We'll get our leader, we'll just whack it over the top like that, pinching it. We've got about a foot here from mouth to where the knot's going to start, because you're going to work up this line as we go. So I'm going to try and explain this as easy as possible. My first move is going to be backwards, under. Backwards, under, and it'll lock off like that. Super simple. And then we're repeating it. So backwards, under, forwards, under. Backwards, under, forwards, under. You can see they're starting to sit next to each other. Backwards, under, forwards, under, backwards, under, forwards, under. I'm not putting a crazy amount of tension on here. Some people love to cinch it down as they go every wrap. I'll touch base on why I do this later, but for right now, I'm just focusing on getting nice, neat wraps. Laying them down side by side so the knot looks nice and it's evenly dispersed tension. Backwards, under, forwards, under. Okay, you can see the wraps are neatly side by side here, basically the FG knot is just like the, what they call it, the Chinese finger trap. So as this knot pulls tighter, it's only going to pull tighter. I forgot where I'm at again. Forwards under. Backwards under. Forwards under. Backwards under. Forwards under. And that's it for me. In every FG knot video you've probably watched, every tutorial I've ever seen, people saying you need to do all these crazy amount of wraps. I do 22, Brooksy, 22, 24, 26, 30. Doesn't really matter. If you are OCD like Brooksy, then it matters. For me, I don't even know how many I do. I just do enough until it looks right for me. And the reason is for it, when I don't really go crazy tensioning my FG knot when it's done. But if you do, or after you've caught a few fish, you'll notice the braid goes translucent under tension when it's properly biting into the leader. If you have a long FG knot, you'll notice only that first handful of wraps will go translucent. So that's the bit that matters. So you don't need a crazy long FG. The smaller the FG, the easier it goes through the guides. You're still getting the same strength, and it's just going to cast better, eliminate tangles, all that kind of thing. So we've done our wraps, very neat and tidy, Brooksy, as you can see. So I'm going to let go with my left hand that's holding onto the leader, and I'm going to pinch there at the end of the wraps. It's not super important to be pinching like crazy. That's just what I do, mate. At this stage, it's good to note that I finish my FG knot with a risotto finish. I don't do a single half hitch. I go straight from the wraps into the risotto. So main braid line and my leader tag here laying side by side. I have my braid tag I'm going to form a loop with, like so. You can see that. I'm doing a real big loop here so it's easy to follow. And I'm going to start wrapping over both the main braid and the leader tag. I'm going to start wrapping, which is kind of like how you tie a uni knot, I guess. This is a bit difficult trying to do it. So that's two. I like to try and lay them down neatly. 3, 4, 5, 6, slide them down a little, 7, 8. Okay, we've got our loop, we've got our 8 wraps, and then we're going to take this, the braid tag, and we're going to lay it across the initial wraps. And we're going to pinch with our left hand, and then we still have our loop here. From here, this is like the little bit confusing part for people that haven't really done the risotto finish before, but once you do it in your hands, it'll all make sense. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm wrapping the loop next to the initial wraps, which will unwrap these wraps, which is where the head noise comes in. But you'll see, if you watch closely, as I'm doing these next wraps, these wraps here are going to come undone. Very strange, I know, for the brain. But bear with me. Okay, I'm going to take this. We're going to wrap as close as we can to those initial FG wraps. That's 1. That's 2. We're going to lay them down perfectly side by side. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Because I did 8 wraps on the way back, it's going to take me 9 to completely unravel this. You can see these ones have already unraveled. I got 1 more. 9. And then this is unraveled. We just have the loose loop now. That was initially the wraps going that way. So now we've unraveled the wraps that we did going this way by doing the wraps going that way, which is confusing as hell, I know. But once this is in front of your face and you get the wraps and you're doing it yourself, it'll all make sense. I know it sounds super confusing, but it's not that difficult once it's in your hands. So at this stage, we're at the kind of finishing, tightening stage. All the wraps are done. It's that easy. We have our braid tag here that we laid down before. We have our loose loop left over from after the wraps. And all we're going to do now is take this braid tag, put it back in the mouth. Nothing crazy here. Hold on to the braid main and the leader tag here, and we're going to watch this loop disappear as I pull with my mouth gently. That right there is the 8-turn Rizzuto finish. I think it's the best locking knot on the FG. So that 8-turn Rizzuto finish there, in my opinion, is the cleanest, strongest, best way to finish an FG knot. Goes through the guides super well. And unlike a half hitch finish or something like that, the half hitches aren't going to come undone because there isn't any. So our next stage from this is just tightening it up a little bit. It's worth noting, a lot of people, they go crazy at this stage. They have line pullers, gloves, tensioners, all this kind of thing, and they pull the living daylights out of their knot. While I understand that, and it's good to like tension your knot, I think a lot of times with knot pulls and stuff, you're putting unnecessary stress on the line and on the knot. I like to pull it a little bit tight, but I think I like to let the fish do the tightening for me. So there's no unnecessary like heat stress or anything on the braid. You're not damaging anything, and the fish is going to pull it tight, and you haven't pulled it to death and possibly weakened some of the knot. The one thing I do like to tighten is the Rizzuto. So the simple way to do that, so the Rizzuto's not sliding off your leader tag or anything like that, is all we're going to do is grab the braid main and the braid tag, like so. We're not touching any leader at this stage, and this is the bit we're going to tension to lock off the Rizzuto. So we're going to pull both the braid tag and the braid main. This will distort the knot a little bit. It might kink a little bit for a second, but we'll fix that afterwards. But this is just purely locking off the Rizzuto. We're going to give it a good little pull. See how it's got that kink there in the knot? To get rid of that kink, all we're going to do, we're going to let go of the braid tag. We're going to chuck that. We're going to grab the leader main and the braid main, and we're going to give it a nice little pull. And that's going to level out that Rizzuto lock off. This is a quick look on the table here so you can see a bit better before I trim off the tags. All right, finishing steps, we're just going to snip off the tag. We'll do the braid tag first. I put it in my mouth, get a little bit of tension on it, so even if you've got shit scissors, they still work. Snip that off. That does not bother me at all. It'll fluff out from casting. Next step, quite important, fold the braid back over the knot. I'm going to trim the leader tag. I trim quite close, like that. Really lube it up. The more lube the better, so there's no chance of burning the braid, weakening the line. Next step, street fighter. And we're just going to slightly singe that bulb, and I press it flat with my finger. Bingo bango, mate. Okay, so you can see there, that's how close I cut it. That's after I've burnt it. I've created a little mushroom on the leader by lighting it and then pressing with my finger. I don't go too crazy. The more heat you give it, the more chance of that bulb in the leader breaking off. Okay, so that's the finished knot. I want to give you a quick chat on reasoning of why I use one specific leader brand and why I finish the knot that way with burning it with the lighter on the leader, and so it locks off perfectly. It goes through the guides really well. You don't have a really excessive leader tag in that's going to get caught on all your guides and possibly break your guides. So this is the reason I specifically go out and I buy Varavas leader. Where I live, there's like not a shop that stocks it. I have to order it online from Duncan or from the boys at Hot Tackle or whoever it might be. And this is the best one. Varavas shock leader. In my opinion, this is the best leader for all your top water casting stuff. The Varavas Ocean Record stuff is also good. I'm not sponsored by Varavas. I go out and buy it. I've tried a bunch of different leaders from a bunch of different companies, and they can be strong. For whatever reason, the Varavas, when I burn it with the lighter, the bulb doesn't come off. There we go, that's my finished FG knot with a Rizzuto finish. I think the key things with this is just being able to practice it at home and then being able to adapt that to a fishing situation where you're in the boat, it's blowing 20 knots, you can lay your rod down, you've got the absorbing tension of the rod tip, and you can still tie the same quality knot in the boat as you can at home on the couch, because it's the most important connection in fishing. If you trust that knot, you're going to land your fish. Practice makes perfect, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, let me know how you go in the comments with all these videos. If you've tried this version at home and you like it, I want to know about it. If you've tried it, you don't like it, let me know about it, and we can maybe do another video on an alternative way to tie it. But for me, that's the one. Thank you all for watching. Let us know what videos like this you want to see next, as always. And yeah, that's all she wrote for the boys here. Might be beer o'clock here. Godwin, thoughts?
That's a wrap. Let's wrap it.
Beauty.